The White House says both the president and vice president tested negative for COVID-19 today as Washington, D.C. deals with a spike in COVID cases. Meanwhile, a CDC official says the ability to track the pandemic is shifting. CBS's Wendy Gillette has the latest.
There was no mask requirement at Friday's outdoor White House reception celebrating Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation to the Supreme Court. That's despite a spike in COVID-19 cases among top lawmakers and government officials, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who tested positive Thursday. Cases in Washington, D.C. have risen 56% in the past week, and hospitalizations are up 31%.
The virus has not disappeared. The virus is still there.
Health experts say vaccines are working despite the rise in cases in some areas.
This is exactly what the vaccines are supposed to do. They're supposed to turn this into something much milder, much more like the common cold.
The CDC said this week that nearly every U.S. county is still at medium or low levels of COVID-19. That's according to the agency's community levels framework, which takes into account hospitalizations. But according to the agency's old benchmarks, more than 1 in 5 counties are at either high or substantial transmission.
Our ability to track the pandemic is shifting.
A CDC official says the rise of at-home tests is affecting case reporting.
For the person following along at home and wanting to know what's happening in their community, I think that continuing to visit your local county or state public health site to look at the metrics that they have there, that's still how I track the pandemic in my community.
CDC officials say hospitalizations and deaths are still the primary metric of tracking the pandemic, but that data could soon be muddled once the federal public health emergency ends. Wendy Gillette, CBS News, New York.
Dr. Caitlin Rivers explains hospital capacity reporting is tied to the federal public health emergency declaration, so once the declaration ends, the reporting will become voluntary. The healthcare workforce is slowly returning back to pre-pandemic levels. Researchers compared turnover rates between April through December 2020 and January through October 2021. They found that rates peaked in the first part of the pandemic, but largely recovered in the second. About 1.5 million workers lost their jobs when hospitals postponed elective surgeries and clinics closed during the early stages of the pandemic. Researchers say more healthcare workers with young children left the workforce. The rate was higher among women. Researchers were unable to address why people were quitting.
Cold air has been filtering into the mountains throughout the day, and we've seen that as a transition to some rain and even sleet, snow pellets, and flurries around the mountains. Taking you out right now to the camera at UVA Wise. You missed it just a second ago. It looked like a wintry snow globe out there because we had some of those snow showers and snow pellets falling. Those beginning to push away, but you still see the raindrops on the camera lens in Wise at this hour. I-75 in London, we're drying out a little bit, but you still see some of those heftier downpours and grapple showers. That's what those little ice pellets are called off in the distance. Temperatures remain low to mid 40s for most. Already a couple areas sneaking into the 30s. It's 39 Williamsburg and Logan and 37 in Wise. So chilly temperatures on the way. A little bit of a break in the central portions of the region from some of the areas of heavier rain, but we're not completely done with it yet. You see, this whole system continues to pivot its way through the region, and we are nowhere near done with the potential for wintry precipitation this weekend. So keep that WYNT weather app handy. Not only will you get our forecast, which shows the potential for that rain to change to snow overnight, but also you'll get the latest radar imagery, which I think you're going to need if you have any outdoor plans over the next couple of days. I'll have the very latest on when we finally start to warm back up, coming up in just a bit. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Caterpillars can now feel a little safer in the Prestonsburg area after one local butterfly enthusiast responded to a call to action. Kay Willis just received her first caterpillar sanctuary after posting about it on Facebook earlier this week, helping address an issue to save the bugs from being eaten and allow them to grow their wings in a safe space. The box, built less than 24 hours after she asked the community for help, was a labor of love by neighbor Tom Moak.
I do projects like this off and on. I've done some benches for some of the trails, so I'm able to do a small part. And the only thing I would say is I would encourage other folks, if they get the chance to reach out and offer that assistance to somebody that they think might appreciate it.
Hear more about the Protective Project and why it was so important to Willis coming up tonight at 5:30. Can your pet make you sick? New research shows potentially harmful bugs can be passed on from your dog or cat. CBS's Tina Krause is in London, England, with more on new findings out of Europe.
Whether it's a hug for your hound or a cuddle for your cat, there's no lack of love between pets and their owners.
And they are our family members. We are moms and dads to them, right?
But veterinarian Constance Pomba says close contact is spreading bugs that may not respond to antibiotics.
We have these resistant bacteria in pets and in humans, and they are living together. That's the bad news.
Researchers at University of Lisbon and London's Royal Veterinary College screened stool samples of more than 100 healthy people and the cats and dogs that live with them in Portugal and the UK. In 4 Portuguese households, resistance genes found in pets matched those seen in their owners. In 2 of the homes, bacteria in pets were the same E. coli strains that turned up in their owners.
But then the good news is this transmission is very low.
E. coli and other bacteria are common in the intestines of healthy people and animals, and while most are harmless, some can cause serious food poisoning or life-threatening infections.
The main advice is wash your hands, like we do with COVID. Wash your hands after collecting the feces.
Researchers warn overusing antibiotics in people and pets is also driving up the risk of infection, but say their findings shouldn't cause alarm.
Don't be afraid of having a dog and cat. We should be, reassured that the transmission is low.
So with good hygiene, pets and their owners can keep spreading the love. Tina Krause, CBS News, London.
During the height of the pandemic, researchers were concerned pets may be able to transmit COVID to people, but found that people are actually the ones who can spread it to animals, although cases have been relatively rare. The White House is joining the chorus of condemnation following a deadly attack on a rail station in eastern Ukraine that's killed at least 50 people and wounded more than 100 others. 6 weeks into the war, Russian forces have shifted their focus to eastern Ukraine. The Kremlin has denied killing civilians, but has admitted its forces have suffered significant losses. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sat down with correspondent Scott Pelley for an interview that will air on 60 Minutes.
We are defending the right to live. I never thought this right was so costly. These are human values.
The European Union also approved a plan to phase out Russian coal, wood, and other products. Energy giant Shale says it will likely take a hit of up to $5 billion after exiting Russia amid Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Shale previously estimated that amount would be $3.4 billion. It won't affect earnings, but shares in the company dropped more than 2% Thursday. You've probably noticed costs going up on all kinds of things throughout the pandemic and now with the war in Ukraine. One of the biggest price jumps we've seen, of course, is in gas prices, and now food costs are increasing as well. Experts say several things are causing the increase, starting with the pandemic down to the labor shortage. Steve McLean with the Kentucky Retail Federation says the problem is not with food.
It's not that there's a shortage of groceries and food. It's just getting it here.
Experts say you can save by using coupons and buying store brand items. Coming up on First at 4, a new report shows just walking on the street is becoming more dangerous. We'll tell you about some solutions, though, that could be on the way.
And we've got showers, flurries, below average temperatures all on the way as we head into the weekend. I'll break it all down coming up next.